A little bit cold outside. Good evening. How are you this evening? A little bit cold outside. Thank you for coming to one more of the lectures of our lecture series in SCI-Arc on Wednesdays evenings, which I believe to be an institution by now within the city. And what I would like to correct myself, what it would be not one more lecture, but perhaps a very special lecture. Sometimes it seems to be historically that, at least with architecture, that a series of events happens throughout history that somehow defines or marks very specific civilizations or cultures, and they seem to come within cycles, within specific periods of times, and the lengths vary from place to place. And the remarkable part of that is that it shows that architecture is pretty much an institution that is alive, and that it has all the resources to generate or regenerate itself constantly, accepting the influences that may be local, they may be traditional, and in certain cases in time that we used to call international, but that it seems to identify certain parts of the world and the cycles that that civilization or that society is going through. Within that panorama, within that view, what is extremely intriguing and extraordinary is to see that there is a place in the world, a giant country like Spain, that is coming back or is coming out after many years of being somehow sleeping more than anything else, and reintroducing itself with this extraordinary baggage of historical personalities, and mainly in the field of in the creative field. We go from the Velázquez to the Goyas to the Casals and Picassos, and the list seems to be quite endless. And what is extraordinary is that right now perhaps we can see this giant once again opening its wings and letting out some suggestions. We can see it very clearly, and as an example, perhaps Almodovar already showing some of his extraordinary ideas. And for us to see this place and to see it making its great contributions historically to the whole world, it is something that it becomes extremely intriguing and extremely seductive. And tonight we are extremely lucky, I think, because we have the presence of a young architect that I would like to maybe connect him to this new movement, to this new energy, to this extraordinary force that comes from this intriguing, from this highly emotional, poetic, maybe magical place that is called Spain, and this extraordinary city that is called Barcelona. So maybe himself would be much better than I do to introduce his work and his presence. And we would like to say welcome to Enric Miralles from Barcelona.
I do not know, because it's going to be very difficult. Because you, let's say, I need to do back your introduction, no? Coming from Barcelona to a school of architecture, no? And show more the projects as something can be seen in one of your studios, because also is a kind of project that our curriculum is much being related to school, and then most of us also with the same changing of politics, etc., enter the school. So it's been a kind of continuity of the school through the professional training, let's say, and to the first commissions mostly get through competition. So we do not really know what a client is and things like that, almost more or less like being at the school. And also probably the reason that I'm here today is because someone who has seen our work thought that probably has some connection or some of the things that you are doing, or maybe you are interested. No? For that reason, I apologize a bit of in a way, I have no slide of Barcelona. I have almost not thought the lecture in terms of showing you our position, because also it still do not exist. It's something very much at the beginning. No? For that reason, the thing I'm going to do mostly is to, well, now we are getting some commissions in Barcelona related to the thing of the Olympics, more or less. But since now, the things we have done is competition somewhere else, not around the town, but not really in the town itself. In the town, I did other projects with people that I work with. And the thing I'm going to do probably is to explain one of the projects we did. Most of them are I tell you, but they are under construction. But the thing is, the long time they take, that are just starting, because the project I'm going to show you is, our office is only 3 years old, so till you do the project, till you win the competition, till the major changes of mine, etc., finally you get something in 2 years, I guess. But I think for me, it's kind of equivalent thing, the care of the drawings and the care of the building itself. So I don't need the building to explain. I'm sure you don't need the building to understand how it will be. You know? And the thing I'm going to do is to explain mostly, I think perhaps the competition that explains best our way of working, and from that try to jump a bit fast to some of the projects till get the final one. No? We could start if you like. This works? Yes. This is a competition we win, and and also I'd like to introduce here most of the ideas that I'm going to do to try to explain toward the lecture, because it's a competition which deals with the land and the building at the same time, and land, building, and site at the same time, and starting the project only by, let's say, trying to grasp or to move on the land, trying to find which architecture must be there, or which architecture has been there mostly. No? And this is the project, the competition from a cemetery. Our kind of cemeteries are buried on niches, so there must be niches there. So the decision we take, that is a kind of Grand Canyon in very, very miniature. No? You see the profile. But when I see the landscape, I realize that's a kind of border on the top. You see it there. And then, let's say, the only decision we did was try to make a kind of cut on the earth, which is going to have bodies in both sides, and to fill this cut with trees. So in the same time, it's a kind of opposite when you have this cut that you do in the forest to prevent the fire to jump. No, in a way also it's nice. I like to think that the abstract qualities of our work is much more related to the manual activity of doing it, or in that case, being related with nature, the same nature forces you to be abstract, forces you to be equal or parallel at least. No? And this was the first competition we win, a kind of cemetery in which you will see the plants now, but the main, we sent that also to the competition to make the jury understand that kind of complete burial that must keep the land untouched as possible. No? Then some small bridges will go over the roof of the trees, and then you could walk as a kind of park. No? Go please. This is the plan. And also with that, I'd like to explain you, this is the project we did for the competition, and then I show to you the one we have developed and is going to be built. And I do that for explaining how we work. And I thought the lecturing in a school can try to be like that. No? The way in which that line is anything else but one of the lines you try to do like grasping or digging or moving the earth till you get one final form of your movement. The first tries were just on the other position, going down to the valley, because you remember here is the valley. But finally, we get that this position is the only one which could deal with the topography, and at the same time is complete in itself. You know, it's a kind of abstraction coming from the fact of walking and ending, and beginning again and ending on the river, etc. No? The whole cemetery, it works like, and this is another concept that I like to insist. The same way in which we did the cut, and then we fill it with the trees, like erasing let's say the theatrical part of your ideas, or not with an aim of contradicting oneself, but like trying not to be sure. No, you do the cut and then you fill it with the trees, and then the whole thing becomes a kind of river, but not at the first step, at the second step of thought. No, and in the same way we try to not to force anybody to walk in that way, but the ceremony is thought in the way in which you go with the car, and the car go inside to the church, and with flowers, the coffin and everything, and then when the ceremony is finished, the car goes up, and then you walk, and then you know where the burial is, and then you go by the bridges and by the staircase and find a point there. No, like if in a way it's kind of always like asking everybody to forget your project. No, the people will like thinking that they will walk in that way, crossing and entering. No, not following anything processional. Go, please. In a way that is the point which makes the whole project work. No, and it's a kind of entry in which inside is the earth and inside is the chapel. And in a way, when you enter here, you also divide yourself from the main entrance of the cemetery. So on the cemetery, which is going to be full of trees. No, go please. I'll go later on that. This is the chapel, and I show you that because in a way, you will see all these triangular shapes in more of the most project I will show you. But I want also to insist that they are triangular because in a way, I think is a geometry which has less rules in itself. Anything can be a triangle. It's a kind of movement of horizons. No, you always have something on your back and something on your front, so in a way, when I'm here, I'm just being on a triangle. Not this kind of more walls that defines one of two ways of being inside. No, like if the earth has been split to prepare that place to be. No, and in a way, that space, which is the only one we could deal. Because that probably was too obvious, not too theatrical. Go, please. That was the kind of drawing we sent to the competition. And also I'd like to explain that it's not the kind of drawings that we do for let's say, thinking the form, but it's more like a memoranda, no? And not to forget that, because we wanted, like, we enter the cemetery, that kind of cross of streets that allows you to kind of window through the chapel, where is the light entering, etc., and you have some wall that probably will show you that will be something there, but you do not know what it is. So it's a kind of not a formal deduction from the drawing, never. No, go. This is the drawing of the chapel, and then you will see how it's being developed. In a way, it's also that way of accepting, like the cross being the beams, etc., or a bench up on the hill, etc. I'll tell you later. But it's a way of accepting the usual things. Try to also in that very, very religious case to erase the meaning, in putting inside of some graphical construction of real of the project. Go, please. And this is why we changed the building. And I think in the reason that we changed it, I think you could understand our way of working. In a way, that was our proposal in the competition for building by steps. That means we tried each step to be a complete form, like a complete start, ending of one arm, ending of both, starting of the river, etc. No? But in a way, we are being asked to build that, and so we decided to make a change. Go, please. Which is that. It's a very small drawing, and I show it here and not anywhere else, but it's a kind of drawing in which you start thinking on how you could really the space, you could really, that cut you have done, which is a kind of more than a cut, trying to find with your pencil the place for where you could put the deaths, no, in that landscape, trying to that space to become something that has qualities in his interior, and most of all has qualities in his border, in a way of cutting earth, having anything under. No, go please. And the section that comes is that, which is a kind of this is the niches that has a kind of blocks, you will see it on the plan. But the most important thing is which that ended on that concrete chapter that allows the earth to finish in one point. No. And at the same time, that point, in a way, is the only project. It's just when Earth finished, no? And you must imagine this is going to be full of trees inside. So you will have that perfect cut, and from that perfect cut, you could develop the profile of what is beneath, no? Go, please. And this is the complete section. We have, and then we develop the path, trying, in a way, you see it's similar in which I explained you to the chapel, and that the kind of opening to the interior of your own. I don't like, in English you say strokes, but a stroke is a kind of very hard word, no? I prefer much more the idea of like grasping or making not any specific movement or gesture and repeating it, no? And this is how one of the sides will go back and forth, and the other side will split in two. And then I think it is, for us the project starts working when appears that new path, which is a path inside of the old one and will be almost at the top of the trees. No? So you will have that ending, you will have the trees, you will have that path, and then you have the new land, no? With some kind of more expensive burials. Go, please. So this is how it will not look like that, I hope better, but it's something like that. No? In one of the faces goes back and forth in a very like brutal almost movement, and the other one makes a kind of front, which is more related to the first commission that was a kind of landscape cemetery, you know? Go, please. This is how it works, and different sections. And now, because of that, we have the possibility of also landscaping the earth in between in the most difficult places, but in a way that was the tool to develop the project, no? To create an interior space here similar to one we already thought for the chapel, no? Go, please. And this is the final plan, and later I'll kind of, when we went dinner, I'll ask if you like it best than the first. But, because I think from erasing also the brutality of your first dramatism, because also the first cemetery was already published, and people like it in a way, but I hate that idea of block street on the middle, no? Because also on the middle of the land, because also cemetery, and I'll try to explain it a bit later, is a kind of very difficult way of dealing with symbolism. We always regret architecture not being symbolic, but when you have a cemetery, you realize that the symbolism is really a disaster, because ruins you everything, no? Because we like very much the kind of streets that has no end, like X streets. But when a cemetery you put dead end street, you miss a joke, no? Or you have a kind of all those kind of things that everything you do in a cemetery becomes symbolic, no? And all the project has been trying to disappear that sense, to be more, let's say, only the ideas, and that's all, no? Bueno, that space also is new, which is a kind of equivalent to the chapel outside, and also that space here, which is the only space which has no trees. You see the trees go bordering that, and from that idea, also when that is defined, we thought that the pavimentation will be much more related to the quality in which the leaves of the trees could fall down, no? Like in between, kind of very clean, not clean. You do the concrete and then you took the concrete out and the stones come out, no? And wood, etc. Kind of almost river pavimentation in that area, except in that. And when we start developing what, let's say, the opening of that stroke, no? Go, please. Is the first time in which some of the objects, or some of the first objects and then people, or on the contrary, I don't mind, could appear there, no? And for instance, that was almost by chance the way in which the two elements cross here, and then they define a kind of kind of tomb, which is a tomb from everybody, you know. And in a way, I like it because it's like not thought as as approach. You find it in the way of opening the first strokes, and you decided to work, no? You see, it's very easy, only cutting cutting the form we already have, and because of the distance of that point, all the holes for niches here, they allow light to go through, and all the light will go through, and all the pavimentation, you will have a kind of windows on the floor, no? On that empty piazza, no? Go. And this is, I put it here, is another project that we are doing now, which is very elemental, but I want to use, because it's based in a very similar idea, which is doing a wall. This is metal done by the same thing you find inside of the concrete, but without the concrete. The structural metal grid is exactly that, and we do it in a section similar to the one of the niches, but because that is going to be on the middle of a landscape, absolutely empty, and our intention is to restore some of the existing walls that are being broken. The idea is we will be absolutely clean, and you could go through, and the plants could be there. No, it's absolutely different. The way of preparing a path to become a space inside, or simply almost putting a ghost somewhere on the landscape. Go, please. Then you will see some of the. Because also when you decided that shadows and things like that helps you to work, you could not stop making the slides. Go. And bueno, this is also the way in which we go around on some of the existing iron work, which is quite nice, not as in the model, but then we do that kind of entries covering the space, no? But the people could go through easily. Go. You see. And it's very nice how one of those forms, to be on the middle of the space, needs to be transparent, and to be inside of the space in a way needs to have both walls defining it, no? Go, please. This you see how the structure it works. It's the same metal grid which forms a pillar, and then only lightly tied or maybe a bit lightly welded, and that's all, no? Go. And going back to the cemetery, so we go to the entry, and this is the gate, which is the thing you will see before entering the chapel. And this is also, at the end, we thought a fence, go please, which closes like that. This is open and this is closed, and because of the three more or less parallel, you will have a kind of light difficulty to entry, so it's a kind of arm moving very easy. And until I promise you that till very, very late, I do not realize there was 3 crosses. And in the same time, I feel it nice because you accept it through the drawing, and then you find there 3 crosses at the entry of the cemetery, which also will be absolutely banal meaning. No? Go, please. This is the crosses where they are, and this is the entry, and this is how you get to that space. And the only thing has changed from the first project is that, which is also following the same idea of services, back of a wall, and everything absolutely inside. This is almost inside, and this is inside earth. No? And on the top of that hill, which is lightly covered by earth, it's not really buried, you will find the cross, but you will find it so big as a kind of bench, almost for sitting. And at the same time, the thing will work in that way. You will come with a car plus flowers will be here, that door will be open, and then here we will work in a way similar in the sense in which the coffin will come here, people will stay here, and in a way that it do not work as a triangle, but as something in your shoulders. And later I explain you what is there and what is there. No? This is the way in which the priest goes out by a kind of movable door, you will see it, and the priest goes disoriented here and comes back from there, goes to there, surrounded, the people is surrounded by the promenade of the priest, so everybody is absolutely tense, no? Because you know absolutely the situation, and I'm sure that the way of moving around the space will forget about the real qualities, because in a way have no quality, because it's only very brutal light here on the coffin and the car, that's all. Go. This is how the chapel will look like. This is the place for car and flowers. In a way, always is very elemental. It's the fact of hating that cars outside of churches when the burial goes, no? Go. And this is how the work, how the door it is, can be sliced in different positions to allow more or less people to be there, and it's a kind, but the real wall will be that, the real door will be that, and the rest of things will be something suspended by metal profiles, very elemental, and glass suspended there, very easy. And also, at the end, became a kind of game in between 1 and 12, I don't know how many times, but go. This is the door by the priest. This is for the priest when the door turns around, not to fall down, to be a little bit stabilized. And also, I like those elements because you do not know, but they come from the nuns' convents in which you put the money inside and then the money goes in and then you go out some candies or some sweet or some wine or something that the nuns did. It's a kind of very secret way of entering the religious thing. Go, please. And this is the way in which also I try to explain what means one of those walls, because the light is going to come through, and because it's going to be white concrete, the light is going to come through in a place in which you will feel, because everything is going to be very dark, that is a table. And in the top of the table you have some of the elements to put the sacred sacraments, no? So at the end, in a way, I'm trying to explain that the wall do not exist. It's only kind of darkness you have inside of churches, no? And it's there because of the wall, of that wall in which the light comes through, no? Go, please. And this is maybe the most brutal thing, but I don't know if at the end they allow us to build it. At the moment they say yes, because probably they have not understand it. Because it's the table for putting the dead people, in which, no, I'm now, maybe for you it's very strange, but I'm very familiar with all those things. And at the end, and we wanted, maybe here we understood some of the things that I tell you about, try to do at the same time and erase the meaning you have. And we wanted a table in which we knew that when a dead is there, nobody would see the table, so we could do anything, no problem. The real presence of the death will be overwhelming about everything. And so, and on the contrary, we don't want it, the overwhelming when it do not exist. So we did a table, go, which is more like that, kind of wheel, a bicycle wheel or something similar on a slab of marble. So I'm sure nobody will realize what that's for. It's going to be there in a wall, hidden and being there always, no? And maybe that is a way in which when we finished that furniture, we thought that the cemetery was over, no? Till the moment we've been dealing with, maybe it's the only real authentic object on that cemetery, because the other part is much more related to the other projects in way of moving land or mostly working with walls. Go. That is that way of working, no? Defining space by its limits, no? In that case, by its interior limits, but that's all. Well, this is the tables, the door, the table with the light through, and then the movable door in that way, or opening in that way to allow, like being three group of people around. Go, please. And this is, well, now I'm going to be through some other ones in which we start dealing with that, concentrating the work in one of those elements. This was a competition that was the enlarging of that town hall that we win, and I don't know if finally we're going to be built, because the major has changed and then it's a problem. But in a way we wanted only money for that wall, because maybe we start working here in a much more, I'll tell, a scholar way, or no, it's a student way, in the way in which you deal with the idea of presence, limits, distance. We want everything to stop here, and let's say all the qualities of the new space coming from there. Imagine that being a public space, like a piazza, for me will be all right. I have no, like, leaving the old building, stopping it here, and making car, people, also the guards, and everything just happening here, and touching to the existing reality in 1, 2, and 3 points, and also very, very tied to the existing buildings. Go. The way that's the most nice thing of the model when we did it. Also, we do not work in model. All the models are done for showing to the clients. I do not mean anything about that because our training is being more related to really thinking on almost with any not drawing, not model, having maybe, and from that, without any critical attitude from my part, we developed that idea of working very elemental only with a pencil and with O1 rotring, and that's all. No? That also is nice for being economical. Go. And this is how we draw the facade at the end. It was one of the many projects we did because they wanted in that way very with vertical rhythms and things like that related to the historical preservation. But the only thing we really like it in that facade is that bridge, which is a kind of bridge that it's a balcony that when somebody goes out, they put the feet on there, they will go down and touch the balcony of the other building. And also we like it, the fact that the major was a very fat man. And imagine that, I think, and also he enjoys the idea of showing himself very fat, putting the feet on the bridge and then the bridge going down. Go. This is how it works. And in a way, it's the only really, let's say, in between, if we could, and if we develop it, I hope, in between the back and that, the other thing will be absolutely changed, kind of be a courting wall, and that's all. Go. And this is because if we don't build it, this is how it looks like. It's there. It's absolutely. No, because also for showing you that the most important thing is just what the thing which is not seeing, no? And also you will see in most of our projects, they work more with the backs of the buildings and we trying not to enter the problem of the formal importance of the front, etc. And when you have all the qualities defined, then you could start thinking, no? But at the end, that becomes very, pays many respect to the existing, no? Go, please. Go. This is in a small house we've been doing now. It's being built for a couple of friends that we hope keep being friends, and it was the stupid things you do for friends. You convince them that a very awful lot you could do something beautiful. That's a disaster, because it's really painful because you could not move from here inside, and at the end you get absolutely mad because the only beautiful view is the apsis of that church. That also we do like it, but you get absolutely working difficult and the client do not understand. Go. But at the end we develop one of those lines. No, let's coming back to the idea of the cemetery in which one line or the word, let's say the word is not line. It's the action given by the fact of moving the hand on the top of the site as a building decision. No. Not the graphic element, because the main idea of that was try to allow the garden to be all around the house and try to allow a maximum dimension here and try to build a kind of in-between all the time, because the house is very, 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 very small. It's from here to here is like 6 meters or something like that, so it's absolutely a small house, and you see something of the ideas of all the richness coming from the back, let's say, and all the work coming from the front, no? like always breaching. Those lines in a way will be better explained in that way, no? Putting some table here and a chair here, some people waiting, some people entering, some people down, some, let's say that kind of, well, in a way, your tradition of a window, that you have it much more than we, because our way working more with brick and more geometrical rooms, no? Go. Oh, this is the model we did just for they not to understand anything and allows us to go up. But no, that's not true. But in a way, we wanted to explain only what means that facade, no? Go, please. Which is that? Which is going to be just, this is the staircase and this is the balcony on the first floor, at the same time is a porch under the living room, etc. No? In that way, it's very conventional. Go. How it at the end moves and it's being built. We wanted they to explain that, no? That the idea will be the front and that small piece of garden becoming something because of the many movements the house do. No? In a way, is that related to the cemetery, like building only the line and not trying to discover what is inside of the line, but trying to push earth or let's say private facilities from the other side, like making a mountain on the top of that line. Go. And this is how we imagine interior space, not in terms of the columns and things like that, but in terms of the interior space of one of those things will be like peeling up things or furniture or tables or things like that. No? And in that sense, we developed, when they asked us to do a chair, we did that chair, which is, this is not the real one, but it's a prototype. But we like the idea of this also being now on production. Is the kind of chair which can be on the middle of the objects around the table and having some of the qualities of the owner. I don't know, but my grandfather likes his own chair and he knows exactly which one is his, besides being actually equal to all of that. No? That kind of, you could choose which is your chair, and besides of that, you could make a kind of landscape around the table. No? Go. You could do some, because this is going to be easy to change from one to another, so you could make a very elemental thing, kind of landscaping around there. No? You could, this is how we present the project, how we explain it to the builders. Go. And this is how the chair finally looks like, because this is much more, I think, much more interesting than the first prototype, which is just cut straight down that slabs. No? So you could, in a way, change it or put it arm or not, or but in a way, the chair, I think, I like to think that has some of the qualities of the owner. No? Like if a space is something that needs to be filled or owned more than really have your own, only a kind of sensual perception, perceptionship. Go, please. Or you can move it to a bench for the garden or things like that, because in a way you only prefabricate 2-3 types of that, and then you could mount it in different ways. Go. And this is one of the first prototypes, because we had also to do it almost ourselves, because at the beginning they do not understand very much, and in that sense I put the slide with the shadows, because I think will give more the idea of what really do we like. Go. 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 Also, when I did that, I do not did it in purpose. I did it only for photograph that. I found that really the chair has something alive, no? It's something more poor chair, no? It's something, I don't know, it's one of those things that you really discover in your object, no? That is almost dead and you need to put it down and say goodbye. Go. This is another house for some friends. It's curious that our curriculum has started just on the opposite, because we've been doing first big things, and then some friends realized that we could do a house, and this is a kind of couple which, instead of trying, they had problems, and instead of trying to do a children, ask a house. And then they get divorced, we lose the house and have no children, so disaster. But I'll put it here because I like it to, also going back to the cemetery, because that is all, let's say, it's the same, to explain it today here, it's the same conceptual attitude in which you try to define a space for that, for existing, like a fence, like something that is going to be very subtle, it's going to be on the surface of the earth, like some of the gardening, which is going to be only like green lines, no? And then you simply, the next thing you do is you put 2 roofs on there. Go. You see, this is the side here is enormous, so it's no problem, but the house needs to be very small, and the only thing is just repeating one of those movements you do for defining the space around. No? You do it on the house. Also, it was a kind of wind which is very prominent in the area from here. But the second decision is like covering these 2 walls with 2 roofs. Go. And define that's going to be the house. This is going to be, well, this is not going to be built, but it was thought in kind of very poor brick and mortar scene and very elemental way of doing it. Go, please. And moving around. Go. Go. And this, from that idea of that like you could work on the surface of the earth because you are touching the earth, but also we did some of the projects in which, let's say, you could find your earth level or your level of moving at any level you like. Go. So is that one, which in a way was, everything was done, and the commission was only to ask us to finish or to, I don't know, and they do not know what to ask to us. And then we thought, in a way very elemental, that because here is a main road, you will see in the next slide that the kind of building there could allow the space of the piazza to jump over to the next street, to the roofs of the other part. So in that way, that space there will be connected with the urban fabric that now is absolutely cutted, and this is a parking which is very ugly. Go. The way we did that, no? And let's say it's a kind of, first is the first project in which probably we discovered that if you pay attention to some of your minimal actions, like explaining to somebody at the phone that you are going to do something there, no? Like with the pencil, you do, I'm going to cover that, and you almost erase or you do that on that area. You, at the end of the project, you really find that you really get that form through the building. The main idea was kind of roofing in a not ordered space, but very elemental, that area, trying to build that space here and that space here that will work as a balcony. And the other thing was try to make the roof in a way in which is being supported by very small pillars and inside of the space, not on the border. So we develop a kind of girder, which is the one that gives a flat surface, let's say, that's going to be the path of the cemetery in a way, in which you could put roofs on the top, having one pillar, but at the same time that pillar helps support the next, and the one before, and the third point is supported by cantilevering that, and the cantilever is balanced because of both sides. No? So in a way you find a kind of a small, let's say, earth level in which you could touch and you could be exactly on the top, and at the same time, go please, you create an interior space. Go. That is the only detailing we did, was very elemental. The beam was prefabricated for us to allow that kind of light coming through the wood into an empty space, and then giving the shadow on the circular section, and at the same time always hiding all the, let's say, metallical moldings. No, we don't wanted any shadow coming from metal moldings, only with really wood and wood on circular surfaces. No? And this is the way in which you see each pillar how it works. It helps to support the main beam and the two secondary ones. Go. Here you see better. In a way, it is a kind of a criterion more than a specific form. No? When you are trying to do one of those surfaces, I think the final result is implied in your thoughts. No? You do not need a kind of drawing in which you exactly define what you're looking for. Go. This is how they look like. In a way, go. Or that in a way is the only constructive detail of all the thing. It's not a photograph taking on purpose. That happens always. I mean, no, it's not anything tricky from the photograph. Go. And this is in a way the real project, in trying to make the street disappear and to bridge that to that roof. You will see it in other slides. And in a way the shadows, which is another thing that help us to understand the things we are doing, is a kind of way in which you really define what the spaces are. No? And you see the pillars are only one inside and more or less forming a straight line. We really don't want it straight. We wanted that kind of variety, much more related to shadows and trees and things like that. Go, please. This is getting down. Go. And this is how really the project helps jumping the street, as I'll tell you. Go. And this is the things you really have in mind when you are working, like how the thing can be cantilevered just on the existing ramp and things like that, allowing you not to know what's going on, etc. Go. This more or less comes without thinking. It comes from the process. Go. Or that, the idea of the cantilevers and the mistakes, because here is almost a mistake, because a little bit less and we could not get that on the top, but it's all right. Go. Or that. It's nice idea of how they repeat the movement, no? I can say it's nice because haven't seen it for many days. So go. And let's say this is the project, no? The shadows defining that space and the cover, and the never relation in between shadow and space. No, you have something under and the other thing moving around. No? Go. As in that way, as in the shadows, try to erase. In that way, the shadows, I like to think, work in the same idea of the trees at the interior of the cut of the cemetery. The shadows has his own freedom to make forgetting about your own project. But that, in a way, was something unexpected, and was the possibility of acting at the distance with complete independence, because we never thought anything about that tower, which is false Romanesque, is made at the beginning of the century and is nothing really special. Then we forget that because it was, let's say, too much compromise maybe to enter, and we prefer to keep on that specific thing working. But finally you find that your own project is like giving a kind of answer to there, no? And those cuts allows you to think that probably in other projects you could start knowing how the distance could affect, or how, let's say, the view through the things could really affect the existing more than the real touching interventions. No, go please. And this is the idea we have in mind when we start that project, which is this is also being built. Is a kind of how can I say? You do not know Barcelona, but in the Gothic quarter, which is the very, very, very center of the town, we have the Mac Foundation and the Picasso Museum. And in between those buildings, Picasso and Mac Foundation, that is a Gothic palace, or at least everybody expects to be Gothic when the door opens, and the real thing is that, because but it's real the fact, as I can tell you, is like you will find to speak Gothic near Notre Dame of Paris. No, it's just exactly that. No? And the thing we are proposing, it's like cleaning everything, and making the courtyard disappear, the back courtyard, because it's not a courtyard. We want to make all the building clean inside, leave all the existing roofs, which are quite nice, but leaving a completely empty space for public use, because that building must be between public and private, so you could cross it from the small street down to the main one here. Okay, no, it doesn't matter. You could move it entering from here and coming under and going to the main street, or also you could go through a kind of gallery. No? And our idea was try to, in a way, to come from the top to work once more also in the new part of the building as a kind of response, not to the building, but to the roofs of the interior. And so in that way they will provoke that kind of cuts on the existing that will give new relations of form, but with no really intervention in our part. They be given as a result more than as an effect. No? Go. This is the existing building, which is absolutely destroyed, and this is the photograph you have seen. This is the courtyard, which is still all right, and we want to prevent that. Go, please. And this is one of the roofs, but you see also the quality of the existing. No? Go. And this is how our building will work. A kind of balcony that allows you to get to the main room, yet at the same time a kind of cantilevering till that back space, no? And a kind of ramp that also allows you to go, as the Gothic one goes from here, a small ramp will go from the back. No? Go. This is the ground floor, in which you have anything but a kind of pavimentation, and probably the thing that only matters at the moment is that 1, 2, 3 points in which the whole thing comes down. No? Those are the first pillars we have thought, because for our way of working, the pillar in a way do not exist, because we keep trying to define the space only by moving the walls, like enlarging the space, or maybe some pillar it comes, but till the moment we do not need it. And that once They are the first one, which is much more related to a kind of a screen. You will see it. Go, please. Is that one? This is the main floor in which you will see everything empty from down. You will see the ramp that will be open or closed, it depends. When it is closed, it goes up, and you have only the building touching there by these two pillars. And we try to be, let's say, as independent as possible in a way, and to keep respect from that existing part with no the difficulties. Go. Is that one? That idea of almost crossing some roofs. That's the next idea I'm going to try to develop. The idea of both lines cross, because the way of erasing or the way of tracing is more related to finding, to look for, no? To finding the treasure, let's say. And there is a previous step in which you must make a cross at the point in which you think the treasure is, no? And probably I'll try to develop that a bit, no? But this is a bit like that, showing that those roofs moving there can allow that space which is in between the old and new. That will be the most interesting thing of the project. Besides of that, will be more spectacular. But the real project is just that, and how we try the pillar to come down, being a kind of cantilever pillar one to each other. It's not a girder. Go. Bueno, this is the plans. Doesn't matter. Go. And this is one model we did to explain them the kind of richness they can create if they put all the floors out, in which the light could come through and then can become a kind of much more, let's say, at least having any qualities at all. You could have at least the qualities of the dimension or the different texture of the existing of the light coming through, etc. No? Go. And this is one. And this is how it will look like from when you really enter from the smaller street. You will have this is being changed now. That window is not going to be so big. It's going to be much more smaller. That I think is going to be much more related to the way in which you see the very tiny end of the streets with a kind of cut of light. But at the same time, when you enter inside, you will have this is ours, but the other one is existing. So you have the richness of that roofs and the light coming through. No? Much more, in a way, rich that the exterior space that you hope to be Gothic and decorated and things like that. Go. This is another thing we did recently, which is also a very poor commission that is in the most dangerous part of town, kind of try to, an existing factory, but it's not a factory, it's even worse, is a kind of try to make it something like a public theater for, I don't know, they do not know what. So it's a kind of room. And the thing we did was try to define one of those roofs crossing inside and making like, you have a cross, you will see it on the plan, and making two very different scale of working, a kind of, the tall is a very small, thin pillar, which ends with the same concrete element, iron chapter, but coming outside without the concrete, and then welded to that point. And the other one is having the same handrail as a kind of girder with an enormous pillar by concrete. Go. You have the plan, which is maybe the most important thing is that one. Go, please. Go. Which is that we like it in the entry of that space to redo a bit the doors. This is not a wall, this is only lettering. You could go under, it's the name of the building, and then you became a door, and then you enter there, and it's a kind of forest of pillars that also when that door is going to be opened, that was the emergency exit, and we do it a kind of also complementary exit. You could make a kind of, imagine exhibition or thing like that, a kind of promenade like that. No? So in a way making, because the poor quality of the existing is really unbelievable, making a kind of more strong intervention at the interior, a kind of one of those crossings in the space, no? Because it seems that the cross has in itself some of the qualities to stabilize the space, no? Or to find a meeting point, or the thing I explained in the cemetery. Go. This is how it looks like. I photographed the slides as buildings. because it's the thing we do have now. So, but will be something like that. Go. And this is the way in which we deal with I don't know, this is only for showing you the kind of working drawings and the material we usually send to the builders. We try to be very economical and put everything on a drawing and as much as possible repeat it and detail it very elementally. Go. And this is how both roofs are. This is the structure of the one underneath, and this crosses that in this point, and that becomes the one which is on the top, which is related to the other many pillars, helps support the one. That one has a really big span, like more than almost 25 meters or something like that. Go. You see it cross like that, and the staircase defines. In a way, this is going to be the only space thought in terms of special relationships. I like thinking on the cross in a much more conceptual idea of becoming one of those in relations that has value in itself. No? You could imagine the kind of forest here being absolutely hung with pieces of paper or things like that. No? This is meant to be disappear. No? Go. It's like when you imagine the people in or the things around hung it and very much destroyed, probably will have his own character. The roof, the thing we did was a kind of concrete prefabricated roof that allows the sound to go up and is taken from absorbing material there, because also the sound qualities were very bad. So the only thing we did was hanging the roof and building that kind of two things there. No? Go. This is the drawing, but this is never going to be seen because of that existence of the wall. No? Probably at the end, when the project is finished, if they do a representation, they say, and I think it's all right, that they are going to use that as a stage more than people to be seated to look at. No? So you could easily imagine Romeo and Julieta moving around here. No? It's very easy to realize. And in a way, it's just the thing we wanted. They're the place to be where the activities go, no? Passing from that door to the other one, under that cross, in an interior space, but paying no attention to the fact of being in an interior. Go. And this is maybe the most important cross we have done, which is a kind of bridge that also was a competition that we win, that this is going to be built also. That is a jump in between, this is Lerida, and it's a jump in between that part of the river, which is the old town, Go, and the next part, which is that one. And this is a kind of river that has a special quality, which is this is the usual flow, but when they have very hard raining, it goes to the top and then covers everything till the next wall, which is hidden behind the trees. So you have the bridge coming from here to here. And the thing we sent to the competition, Go, was that. And that with a written text, and they accepted. Was no, I explained that also probably because I don't know if that could happen sometimes, no, but it's one of those miracles that happens, no. I'm absolutely true. I'm not making any show, and I think the idea was nice, and they understood the idea, no. But also it's nice to see how what people expecting from us, no, because the idea was explaining that because it was a pedestrian bridge, we wanted the people coming from up from the old town. Let's say we wanted the people from the new town to have the bridge as a kind of promenade, and they arrived to one point in which they could decide or to jump or to go back home, no? And in a way you feel it that, because you feel it that the old town do not want it at all to cross to the new one. And if they wanted to cross, they wanted to cross in that very, very subtle way. And also we wanted to develop the idea of a pedestrian bridge as small as possible, like as teeny as possible. And we developed that idea on the second stage of the competition. And was really curious, because also many known also engineers had entered the competition. Go. And the thing finally we did was that, and now it seems obvious, but also having us that project and the idea, at the end we discovered that in the way in which I explained to you how to find your own space at the interior of one of those marks on the earth. Here at the end we discovered that the real project was to split the cross, to define a real space just in which the cross is made. Because one of the first ideas we had was, in terms of scale, to rebuild on the center of the river one of the last street crossings of the old town, no? That I think was nice, and also the idea of just stopping the bridge when the forest, or let's say the raw trees began, and a kind of second kind of bridge in the other side, no? But at the end, that space, which is in a way the first movement, the one you did, jumping from here to there, you must form a space there. And also the structure, I'll explain to you now, was just developed by that split, no? Go. This is the bridge, and this is the forest, and this is how they go, and the other part. And how they form a kind of piazza there that I think it will work, and because a kind of empty land in which you have the promenade on the top, and you have the promenade here, so you could have a kind of balcony on the top level, no? So here will be a place for some public activity for sure, no? Go. And this is how we explained the project the second time, in which the thing that we must do is jump to there, arrive to that point, and to decide if to follow that one, that you find it in a different perspective, or you go walking, seeing the old town from the new one. Go. And just the design comes from that. What people expecting from us, not because the idea was explaining that, because it was a pedestrian bridge, we wanted the people coming from up from the old town, let's say, we wanted the people from the new town to have the bridge as a kind of promenade, and they arrived to one point in which they could decide or to jump or to go back home, no? And in a way, you feel it that, because you feel it that the old town do not want it at all to cross to the new one. And if they wanted to cross, they wanted to cross in that very, very subtle way. And also we wanted to develop the idea of a pedestrian bridge as small as possible, like as teeny as possible. And we developed that idea on the second stage of the competition, and was really curious, because also many known also engineers had entered the competition. Go. And the thing finally we did was that, and was, now it seems obvious, but also having us that project and the idea, at the end we discovered that in the way in which I explained to you how to find your own space at the interior of one of those marks on the earth, here at the end we discovered that the real project was to split the cross, to define a real space just in which the cross is made. Because one of the first ideas we had was, in terms of scale, to rebuild on the center of the river one of the last street crossings of the old town, no? That I think was nice, and also the idea of just stopping the bridge when the forest, or let's say the raw trees began, and a kind of second kind of bridge in the other side, no? But at the end, that space, which is in a way the first movement, the one you did, jumping from here to there, you must form a space there. And also the structure, I'll explain to you now, was just developed by that split, no? Go. This is the bridge, and this is the forest, and this is how they go, and the other part. And how they form a kind of piazza there that I think it will work, and because a kind of empty land in which you have the promenade on the top, and you have the promenade here, so you could have a kind of balcony on the top level, no? So here will be a place for some public activity for sure, no? Go. And this is how we explained the project the second time, in which the thing that we must do is jump to there, arrive to that point, and to decide if to follow that one, that you find it in a different perspective, or you go walking, seeing the old town from the new one. Go. And just the design comes from that, the idea of preserving the balustrades and using the real retaining wall, using his capacity of having the strength enough for the new lawns, so all the cable are just put on the existing walls, and once the tables are put, the only thing you need to do is very subtle to let the iron to arrive here, the metal section. So go, you could jump, go. You could jump in that way, and then it's nice because when you start that idea of being precise, you could never cross a bridge, a river, I mean, because you always find an half point. So it's like those things explained by the Greeks, no? You could never end it to cut in one thing in middle parts. Because at the end, and now it appears a kind of middle point just on the top of the real river, and just a moment to start thinking going down, go. And the idea is that, and you arrive to that point, which is you are underneath of the trees. This is not going to be like that anymore, but it's just a drawing at that moment, in which the meaning of that is a kind of metal thing that allows to cut the leaf of the trees to create that space here, go. And from that space, that's a real project in a way, in which at that specific point you have, this is a very beautiful castellate church, and you see the promenade from where you are coming, no? And in a way it's like finding, in the terms of what do we look at the projects, finding some of these specific places to stop for thinking, or almost for not thinking, but for unknown thinking. No, I'm sure everybody here will stop, at least will feel the presence of the existing town. No? And then at that point you could decide if you rest or you go by the promenade, or you jump, or maybe you go back. Because we like very much the idea of that bridge in which you could go and come back. You do not need to cross, no? Because rivers better not to cross it. Go. And this is maybe the only, let's say, interesting detail of the bridge, in which, because the other things are probably linear, no? But in which the cables go through the baluster and takes the strength of the existing wall to support the arch to get to the other point. Go. This is that. In a way, but at the same time, I think the strength of the pulling and the very elemental, almost non-effort on asking you to come, no? Giving like with very much respect. Go. It's very nice. It's the first time that I heard a baby crying on a lecture. I know this is the way of technology we decided to use. A kind of also that was making a difference in between other teams, and we wanted to use a kind of very elemental thing, nail it, and just adding the metal slabs when needed. No, so and this is the tension element, very elemental. Go. And the section which always, this is composed elements done inside and by progressive cantilevering, and this is precast concrete with some glass on it. Go. In a way, it's that part of the bridge. And from that, we developed, go please, the main problem, go. It's finished? We developed that, which is, it's on the contrary, but doesn't matter. That I think it's, for me, a surprise, because we develop it in a kind of logical way, thinking on the terms that I explained to you. But at the moment of working with our collaborators to developing the structural thoughts, we found that one of the main, let's say, the problem because of the cable structure, you have no problem with deformation, you have no problem with loans, because you could not surpass the cable strength. And the only problem we have is mobility on the horizontal, on the horizontal level. Let's say when many people is entering here and nobody is anywhere else. So it's a kind of like a public demonstrations coming from there. And the thing was really nice, because in a way that promenade works as a kind of horizontal beam in which all the strength sent to here, it's in that element is sent like a horizontal beam here and rotates in that point. So you will have all the bridge moving horizontally and not in terms of the span that you have thought at the beginning, like how to jump from here to there. No? In a way you find a superficial element that good moves and keeps finding stabilized each time because of that and that pushing in and being rotated here. No? Go. It's just that. You have this and this, and this is the way in which this is the way in which the promenade enters and becomes chapters, that and that, and this is the way in which the beams that support both sides become, or a beam that allows you not to see the town till they becomes a kind of central beam that cantilever both sides, etc. It's a kind of movable element on that section, on the longitudinal section. Go. And this is at the end how the bridge it works. Go. And this is really, in a way, our project. Let's say this specific point to pass unconscious, but I'm sure that some thoughts will be there when you pass through. No, go. And this idea of finding one of those, let's say, specific points inside of something built was the idea we had in mind. Reworking on that. This is an old factory that they asked us to make kind of the possibility of entering the different floors, and during the construction it becomes a school. So we do not have almost time to do the project, and we did the thing at the same time as the builder almost. No? And our main idea was protected by law. This is not possible to touch, and we thought it has no specific qualities except his dimensions. So we try to keep at least, also by the fact that the street is very narrow and has almost no quality for children to stay, we proposed a completely empty plan, leaving which one is for us the most important quality, which is the kind of order of the structure and enormous length and height of that space. And we made only two interventions. Which one is it? A kind of movable slicing door that you will see it takes. From here, the building is not protected, so we started the destroying from here. From here is absolutely protected, and we were lucky in a way, because if they protect it from here, it's a disaster. So we make that door that moves like that, and allows a kind of vestibule. You will see it very, very light, and a kind of ramps that goes just passing the existing structure and comes from top, which is in the way the school, from down running. We imagine like the people being combed in the sense of like that, no? Combed by the existing structure, like not having one big staircase, but one of those movements through the structure. No, go please. You will see it on the slides. This is the door. This is the door open. This is the slicing door, and this is people entering. And maybe the most interesting thing is how you, at the end, you will find the qualities of the street inside. No? Go. Which is that you find this is at the end how the ramps are developed. You will see it then. But at the end, when we open completely the inside to allow the better qualities of light to be in than on the street. So in a way that is the only surprise you find, a kind of balcony, staircase, etc., or place to be, or observatoire, or one of those things that I explained you on the bridge. No, go. When you enter, it's like that. You have the same light features that in the street, and some new ones. But this is not really for making light. It's only having one or two points on the ceiling that helps you to understand that is a vestibule. Go. And this is how the space it looks like. It's absolutely empty, and I did that because it's the only way in which, in a drawing, you could see the staircase climbing or going down the ramp, and you see the balcony there, because in the reality you find it too close. Go. Here's the section. You see how it works. It's a kind of a ramp that starts when you are allowed to pass under, here or here. At that specific point, you have the ceiling almost at a view, so you have you will see a kind of vibrating light through the existing girders, and at that point you could start running, because you have all that enormous flat surface on your feet, no? And the main idea was to help us as the people to move, only changing. You see, that was like that, only changing that glass in order to allow all the new circulations to be outside of the building. So when you are walking just in the place in which, let's say, the builders are during a process of construction, never in one of those spaces that are thought as a kind of space. No? And this is one idea that we also been developing, the idea of one of those secrets, one of those secret spaces that you usually go when we are travelers, like going inside of a church and climbing from the tower to the cupola by the one of those things, because I think this is one of the most specific constructive spaces, the paths in which the builders do for building the thing. And we like it to do it absolutely equivalent. If we needed somebody to be there for rebuilding that, we keep it that as a kind of a space which is going to be public. No, I don't know. It's like opening all the sacredness of our profession that we enjoy ourselves. No, trying to be, let's say, at the same time we like the big dimension of the high, but we like most to be just touching that element. No? Go, please. This is how you see it from beneath. In a way, that was exterior of the building. The building just finished there, no? And the only thing we did was adding that. Go. You see it here, just in the drawing. And you see the school starts just on that floor. Go. And the ramps just appear like that, because just behind the pillar, you have all those three elements that more than going up, I think they accept the people disappearing from a school. No? I thought maybe it's most important in a school the moment of going out than the moment of going in. It's much more everybody at the same time. No? Go. Oh, this is how you see it from underneath. This is the usual way in which you probably come up, like by one of the, because at the determinate moment you could choose if you go down or you go just by running by the ramp. Go. Oh, this is one of those moments to stop, you know, in which you see all the floor, all the ceiling like that, and all the floor arriving by these elements. Go. And this is maybe the only detail we did in all the project, which is trying to fit all the structural profiles, making sense in terms of length and strength, and at the same time allowing that crossing, which is a kind of in between, not flat, but trying to not really go from a staircase to a ramp, never to a staircase from a landing to a ramp, no? Because it was just a moment to put 1 feet and you disappear. In that case, it's a second of thought. It's much more or less than just being on the top, which is where is that balcony in which you could stay there and you really have the view far, and you will see it now on the slides. Go. Well, this is how it looks like from the top, that kind of moving thing. Go. Or this is a little bit moved, but it's exactly how it is when you move through, and I like it that. Go. And this is the space you get. In a way, I'm sure that our next project will look different. In a way, the thoughts are similar, but we have had really no time to design everything. Everything were decisions made with the builder, with no time of complete project. That is one thing that I do like very much, to have the possibility of changing from the first cemetery to the second one. And this was not even first project, was just done. Go. And this is one of the nicest things in which, besides of the material aspect of everything, you could see your own building from inside, being in one space which has the qualities of outside. You see, our way of dealing with light is having letting light come through and define the shadows, no through any walls of texture or like more mystical light. We wanted till the moment like that, not very plain. Go. This kind of light. The light is very awful, but I like to explain that in that, just because that is the same shadow that some will be, a tree will give on the street outside if the street was better, no? In that sense, that space has better qualities than the street. Go. And this is how you get into the classrooms from there, that were just added like that, very elemental. Go. Go, go. In which some of the elements for heating, because there is quite cold, we keep it on the middle, trying to allow the children to sit on the top, etc. And we decided to use the concrete and glass to make the light reverberate, because you see from the protected facade is almost no light entering, So all the light always enters from that facade. No? And also the same lighting of the corridor, which is not really corridor because it's very big, but all the light is coming from inside. Also when it's night, you will see it. Go. This is the final ramp in which you have one of similar ideas. This is, on the top is laboratories, and this is classroom, so you have this interior movement during the class period. So you never use the exterior one by the ramps and the cantilever floor. Go. This is that. Just maybe the only point. And at the end we accepted that the staircases with legs. That I think is one of the things, something related to the chair. At the end you enjoy it because like your family, one of those animals, you have it. Go. And this is how the classrooms exist. It's just this kind of glass and transparent, and then all the light comes from here to there. And you there only have one of those elements, which is the usual lamps that we have in the schools, barcatted and connected together with one metal element. Go. This is the way in which the building is lighted, using painted white and using the existing one. The builders were really very good, and they put all the things, exactly measurements, but really people who knows how to do it. Go. And this is how we, jumping from there, let's say, the first step of lighting will be just on the surface, as I tell you before, and then the second can try to jump on the space, but being absolutely related to the existing, trying to nettle. I don't know how to say in English. Not try to do it with straw like that. No? Go. And this maybe is the last project that I'm trying to show, because it's a kind of the project also is being built now, and it's doing La Llauna, and maybe I'll take a little bit longer on that as in the cemetery, because doing La Llauna they ask us to restore that building for public use, no? And when you are inside of one restoration, you promise that you never will do one again, no? And they ask you to do that. And also you see the building, no? And it's amazing. But they wanted to kind of public building which has a public room inside. And so from that maybe was our first commission in which, let's say, the interior space was the most important thing, like a public room for like 200 people, kind of, for making meetings or a small theater or things like that, and a series of public services like ateliers or bar or TV room, etc. No, the kind of in between cafe and social center, and we convinced them that if we could go through and make an opening in which the building do not fall down, and we could put 300 people, we do it. And in a way it was true, but they do realize that doesn't matter and we could tear it down. Go. And so we convinced them to make the building disappear, and we did that. But at the same time, let's say, I like to think that with the existing building we have done the same, which is making a kind of, at the very end of that street, which is probably the most, the less awful, let's say, because the other ones are, you see, by the way in which the plan is done. The less awful street, it's a kind of, could be a kind of window, enormous window, that shows that it's a kind of empty room inside, and this empty room will be always lighted. And on the top of that room, you will have the facilities. You will see it now. Go. So you have that, which is, this is an existing trees area, which is quite nice, and this is an existing playground. So the building must be placed exactly where the other one was, but the only thing we did was try another time to move the walls and try to fit exactly in that space, to move a maximum to the better orientation, or to make the building almost disappear in that point, and connecting kind of possibility of trees in both sides, etc. No, but let's say the main building is a kind of empty room underneath, because this level is slightly down. You enter by here or by here, and that big room is going to be the main room, and it's going to be covered by 1, 2, and 3 floors at different level, crossing each other, and can help by a metal girder that goes from here to here, and a metal handrail that supporting a pillar on the top of that girder goes crossing like that, you will have that structural element moving on the space, which is a truss, a pillar, and a girder, and the pillar being on the truss. So you have anything on the floor. And you have the three things moving, and at the same time, this and this is going to be where the light always comes through, and you have from that window always light out. So you have an empty room but lighted, and that's the way of formation of the building. No? So having that possibility of like crosses there, you could keep moving it like it takes, let's say, it goes, I think, as less as possible inside of that. No, like also we like this idea of cats entering till in a way you are stopped by the existing or by the connections you don't want to ruin. No, go. This is the underneath space in which in a way that could become the back of the stage with a window, or that become the back of the stage like a kind of perspective, a street or something like that, and the entries, as I tell you, is by here are right here. No? This is a kind of fence that closes the entries to the garden. This is maybe the only one interior space that has been done from the beginning interior, in a way. And from that probably so much cover and so much protected. Go. Because you will see that is interior, in which you will have that room lighted from here and from here. No, excuse me, from here and from here. You will see the people walking on the corridors, because the building is there, no? Just on the top. You will see the people walking on the corridors looking at here, as a kind of balconies for the theater also. It's a kind of half a theater, more or less. One of those not complete spatial structures, but easily recognizable as a structure. Because from here you will be like looking at the theater as being in a balcony, you know? But let's say that interior space is the thing which is absolutely hidden. But from the exterior you will not realize at all that also that dimension is possible there, because the building is buried from here to here. So go please. You see, that is the main plan, is the way in which you go in the building. You go entering by this door, you never enter there, and you go out for playing, or you came here for going to the first, or by the staircase to second or third floor. And at the same time, let's say that one thing that I like to explain is that underneath building is covered by those, but at the same time it's a third building, which is when everything is closed, you enter there, and you could climb to the terraces by the ramps, in which you could be on the top of the facilities, and on the, let's say, and by that on the very top of that space. So it's a kind of always an empty building that can be cleaned everywhere. No? Go please. This is the girder that I tell you, which is a composed beam in between prefabricated elements with no problem, and the pillar, which in this case go to the containing wall, which is the first one, or on the other cases it goes on the top of the truss. So that is the structural element that goes around. And these are kind of wood screens that also prevent the privacy of the interior from the playground outside. Go. This is the second floor in which that moves. In a way we wanted, and maybe is some ideal form of working, like each room having its own terrace, etc. No? And all those qualities is the qualities we ask to the existing building. And because we could not get it from the existing, in a way they allow us to destroy it. No? Go. And this is the third one in which you still form the two light entering corridors, no? That and that one. And that finish here and helps forming the window at the entry. Go. Anyway, that is to show the trick, but it's very off. I mean, I do not like it, but because like that you easily understand how it looks like. No? Go. In a way, I prefer much more like that, in which you will have that wall, you have that window, you have the door, and you could go moving around the building without almost not knowing that enormous room is underneath. Go. This is what happens. Go back, second please. This is what happens behind that wall, is all the connections are there. Go. which is the first staircase, the first entry, the second kind of in between ramp, staircase, second, etc. No? Everything is being done with concrete and metal elements, and all the light fittings are put exactly on the steps, so you will have one of those shadow lines patterns that we usually work. Go. This is you start moving around. In a way, let's say, I was saying that we do not use walls because everything is different. It's kind of limits. No, that's probably the real one, the one which I'm less sure. We'll see what happens with that. That one is the one which really works in terms of light, space, etc. And the other ones, there are kind of like screens in between one activity and the other one. No? And in between, and back of all those screens, you have the space. Go. This is the wall that works more, I think, because it's the doors for entering, it's the ramps for arriving. In a way, it's absolutely compressed against the trees, and let's say everything will enter the building from here, except people, in a way, because the building will work through that wall, which I think is the real one which gives the form. In a way, that wall could be jumping all those arms in a very different way in another space, no? If the sidewalk has been different. Go. This is how you arrive from the beginning. No? And with that, and the next slides, probably I'll try to explain you maybe one of the ideas in which that project has offered to us, no, as a surprise. Because I've been trying always to talk about movement, moving around, trying to move your hand on the paper equivalent to the side to discover the things. But in a way, I hate to force the users, or let's say, not the users, because I hate to force the building to be discovered in that way, which is movement, no? And in that sense, I like very much one of the thoughts of Picasso at the very last projects, last drawings he did, was a kind of simultaneity, no? A kind of possibility of he was trying to draw and redraw this kind of Venus, which is like showing you at the same time your face and your back, no? One of those really intensive movements of contrapposto, which allows you the simultaneity. Go, please. And it's that thing that I like, no? In the sense, when we did those drawings, that one, go, please, and the next one, we know that it's exactly the same building. In between, just offering you as a kind of mountain, or go back, or just appearing like that, no? And that kind of simultaneity in which you do not know in which moment the building changes to be that for be the other one, no? And in that sense, that is one thing that happens a bit on that roofs in Parets, no? That you could see the movement without moving it, no? You could stay there and you could see the sun moving, or in the same movement. This is a beautiful idea that you have it in English, that we do not have it in Spanish, which is the idea of embodiment. That they say the quality is embodied by the object, or by the project, or by the people, or by the sentiment, no? And we like it very much to think. We will see if it's true, because now it's just on here, the construction. For that reason, I do not bring slides. We will try to see if the building really embodies that change from that, go please, to that. But at the same time, you do not need to move to have the perception of that. No? And that is the thing we are just working now. Thank you very much. Don't be so exaggerated. You have questions or nothing? Thank you very much.